Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? I'm here once again. It's your boy David from Top Bunk Sports. Another special video. And I wanted to have a conversation with you guys because I feel like there's a topic that I need to address. And that's the Mets first baseman situation, right? Um, a lot of talk upon, Met fans on X and social media in general about Pete Alonso not being here is a huge factor and discussion this year, right? Not only because of how he's playing in Baltimore, but how bad our first base position is right now. Now, before I go into anything further, shout out to Jared Young. He's having an incredible season, a really good season. Not crazy, right? I'm not saying that it's starter worthy, that you shouldn't just use him as a number one option and not try to get better. But again, for what they put him there for and what the expectation was, he's been very solid. I gotta give him a lot of credit, right? Shout out to KBO Jared Young because that's what we call him. However, a lot of people seem to be very turned off or very upset at the fact that Met fans keep talking about Pete Alonso. But there's a bit of a trickle effect as to the Mets being able to handle that position in a very negative way. And the reason why I say that is because we really haven't prioritized first base as we should. First base is one of the primary positions in all of baseball. And for an organization like us that doesn't really prioritize it, that's it's a very concerning thing. And again, it's it's been a conversation for maybe about 2 years now. And it starts with David Stearns because he himself has said he doesn't prioritize first base as much. He's shown that. Not even that he said it, he's shown that. I mean, I was there at Amazing Day when the fans were telling, Steve and David, you know, we gotta we gotta be able to bring Pete back. I mean, look what he's done for us as a player. There's so much history around Pete Alonso. And they heard that. They heard that loud and clear. They were booed for that. Sometimes, depending on the certain scenario, you may not catch Met fans really vocal and really passionate with certain things, but a lot of times they are. It depends on this. It depends on the situation. They are one of the most vocal fan bases in all of sports. Whether they love you or they hate you, they're gonna let you know. That's why I said, depending on the situation, they're gonna let you know how they feel. They're gonna let you know how they feel regardless. But whether they love it or they hate it, it depends on the situation. However, in that particular day, when Steve Cohen and David Stearns did their press conference on Amazing Day, they when the Pete Alonso thing was brought up, they were not happy as fans because they're like, dude, we're in January already. What's taking you so long? Like what's stopping you from going in and saying, "Yo, let's make sure a deal gets done to bring him back." Now, of course, Steve Cohen came out and said that, he basically said that it was exhausting. He said that the entire situation was exhausting, that there was so much, back and forth about what, Pete wanted and what they wanted. It was just, you could, he was very vocal about it. He was very honest. But they brought him back on a 3-year deal. Obviously, an opt out after the first year, which he did, and then he obviously signed the 5-year deals with the Baltimore Orioles. Um, and right now he's an Oriole. He's killing it, by the way. But, I say that to say that, we really haven't prioritized the first base, position as an organization. And when you finally get out of the loops of a Ike Davis and a Lucas Duda, um, and you're not really using journeyman in that position, the last time that we had a primary first baseman in that position, where not only he provided solid defense at the position, but he also provided something on the offense, specifically power, was Carlos Delgado. We really haven't had that since Carlos Delgado. Pete Alonso comes around and brings that dynamic back. And, a lot of people seem to look at Pete as a guy that it was, you know, mainly a guy that was selfish because he didn't take a contract extension in 2023. And mind you, I was one of them. I was sitting here basically saying, yo, you had an opportunity there. Remember, this was under the Billy Epler regime. They wanted Pete to stay here. It was a 7-year extension. He didn't take it, right? He bet on himself, right? He signs with Boris. He signs with Scott Boras. He sees what Scott Boras is doing. So many deals that are being made, overly paid deals for that matter. Fucking Taiwan Walker got a 4-year, $72 million deal from the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's under Scott Boras. And not saying that Pete saw that one specifically, but a lot of guys were getting paid under Scott Boras. Scott Boras is the cream of the crop when it comes to agents. Scott Boras is the number one agent, the number one guy. Mark Vientos thinks he's gonna get a superstar deal, and we'll get to him in this video. But Scott Boras is the general when it comes to baseball agents. So Pete Alonso sees the opportunity to possibly get a deal, and he goes with Scott Boras. Now, mind you, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you one bit. I was pissed the fuck off because I knew how this would possibly turn out. You sign with Scott Boras, and there's no telling that the player is gonna return back to a certain team because Scott Boras tries to milk as much as he can. Scott Boras tries to get as much. He tries to get every single penny and every single dollar out of all the all the GMs and all the owners for the respective player. And again, part of that is also the player association demanding the money that their market presents. This is why the situation with the CBA right now is what it is, because you got owners that are trying to not pay so much or not pay a lot of money for a certain player that they don't think is worth the value of that. And then you got a player association that's saying, listen, if my market is if it is where it's at and you don't want to pay me that, then we're having a problem. And the players association doesn't want to get out of that. Again, I got a video for that. I want to talk about that, but that's Scott Boras. Like, Scott Boras is gonna milk every single dollar and every single penny out of the wallets of the GMs and the owners to try to get that player in their prime, for that matter, as much money as they can. Now, when it comes to Pete, like I said, the situation was a little bit complex because, again, he didn't take the extension from the other regime under Billy Epler and Sandy Alderson. Then comes in David Stearns, right? And all of a sudden, it's David Stearns Pete Alonso doesn't fit David Stearns' vision as a defensive first baseman. And mind you, like I said, a lot of Met fans, including myself, were saying, listen, his defense is suspect. Is this a guy that you want to give long-term money to because of how inconsistent he is at first base defensively? Not his power, right? There's a lot of fans that come on this app and say that Pete Alonso statistically was declining. And listen, if that's true, and you're afraid to give him what the Baltimore Orioles gave him, 3 years out of the 5 years for what Pete Alonso's been able to give you, it's to me, it would not have hurt you, right? But Pete Alonso did not fit David Stearns' vision, and that was clear from day one. When we finished the 2025 season, the day after, David Stearns made a press conference and preached to the top of his lungs, run prevention. And it was obvious that when he said that, Pete Alonso probably wasn't coming back. We all said it. Shout out to my guys at Queens Baseball. Shout out to my guys at 7 Express. Shout out to my guys in all my Mets group chats. Even though we're in separate group chats, we all said the same thing. Yo, he said run prevention. Oh, Pete, that don't mean Pete. That does not mean Pete, because Pete's not about run prevention. Pete is not a very good defender at first base. We all knew he wasn't coming back. Hell, when he dropped that fly ball in Game 3 of the wild card on the netting, and I was at the watch party at Citi Field, we were all sitting there like, oh yeah, he's not coming back. Like we don't want him back. Like, come on, Pete, because he had such a bad year in 2024. You know, obviously he turned it up in the playoffs after he hit that home run in the ninth inning. But you know, we were like, yo, get this, don't bring this guy back or whatever. And then he hits the home run, and then we were all kind of like, oh, you know what, like, yo, what the hell? Like we were all excited, but we all after what he did in the playoffs, because he had a really good playoff in 2024. We were all like, yo, you know what, bring him back, and at this point, fuck it, let's just ride out with the dude. And then obviously, things turned out the way that they turned out. But I personally don't think that when it comes to Pete, I think you could have brought him back. I don't think it was a problem. Like I said before, you could have withstood at least 3 of the 5 years that you had with Pete under a contract like that. Let's just say that you would have given him 5 years, 155 million. 3 years out of that deal would have not hurt you as the New York Mets. Why? Because the numbers offensively are there. He's comfortable here. The power, at least within the next 2 years, is still going to be there. And there's no way that a guy that has made so much history with the organization, has built so much relationships within the organization, has built so much relationship and trust with the fans, there's no way that you're going to tell a fan base, I don't want him back here because he doesn't fit one portion of my belief. It's ego driven. It is ego driven to the max when it comes to David Stearns. Now, granted, if anybody else wants to put their perspective on Pete Alonso and say, well, it's ego driven on him because he didn't take the extension, I don't necessarily think that's ego driven, because any superstar, for that matter, it don't matter who you are, if you get an opportunity to get the best payout to support not only yourself but your family, I'm gonna take that. I'm going to take that. Not everybody is going to be like Jalen Brunson and take a pay cut. That's not how this shit works, man. And again, I don't want to say that as trying to dumb it down for anybody and make it seem like they don't know. Of course, everybody knows this is not how this shit works. But not everybody is going to be very light and very respectful. And not saying that if you don't do that you're not respectful. But again, not everybody's going to be Jalen Brunson. Okay? And you don't have to do that. That's another situation. You don't have to do that. All right, you have a family. Like I said, in this world, we all know that we love the game and we love to see these guys perform to the highest level because we have so much respect and love for them. But at the same time, they also have, like I said, they also have something to support. They have something to feed. They have family to feed. This is a business. Yes, they love the sport. They grew up in the sport. They dreamed about playing in the majors, but they also understand that this is my work. This is how I make income. So at some point, if I can get the best option, at some point I have to put the money and I have to put the contract first, then the organization. And especially if they're not willing to show me an ounce of respect. And what I mean by that is the ounce of respect was never there from the Mets when they didn't even attempt to give him a conversation. If the conversation was there and the offer was there and maybe the offer didn't go through and maybe they didn't want to sign him to as much, cool. Okay. I can be a little bit calm about that. Maybe not as much because of how they replace who they replaced him with, but I could feel a little bit better knowing, listen, you had a conversation, you attempted to give him a contract that was decent, he didn't take it, he went for the larger money. Okay. But the fact that you didn't offer him anything, I'm talking about a two-time home run derby. He's what, a three-time All-Star? He's not only a rookie home run champion, right? But he's also a home run king for your organization. He got you into the division series with a game-winning home run in Game 3 of the wild card. He basically performed better than him and Mark Vientos and Lindor, for that matter, performed to the most clutchest moments in the playoffs when it counted. And because he doesn't have the defensive numbers and he doesn't fit your vision of run prevention, you're not going to bring him back. That to me was disgusting. And this is why David Stearns gets the shit that he does. All respect to people that like him. Shout out to my guy Matt, David Stearns burner. If you know him, you know him, right? For those of you that conversate with me on X, I understand why y'all don't like Pete Alonso. Shout out to Black Charlie. Black Charlie's another one. Again, shout out to my guys on X. I understand why y'all didn't like why y'all didn't like Pete Alonso. But again, it runs more than just the fact that defensively he didn't really have it. It runs deeper than the fact that he can't make a simple throw from first base to a pitcher when they're trying to tag the bag. It runs more than any of that. It does. I'm sorry. Especially if you can't get the right replacement for him if you're not going to bring him back. Now everybody wants to talk about this season that, oh yeah, this season don't matter because the Orioles may not make the playoffs. They're only like what, a half a game, 2 games back from a third wild card, right? So if they don't make the wild card, it doesn't matter. But again, if you just look at his stats this year, just individually, let's take away his what the team is doing together. If you just look at the way that his stats are, just give me 1 second. If you just look at the way his stats are this year, I'm talking about 32 home runs, 91 RBIs, a 274 average, a 362 on base percentage, and an OPS of 874. In his last 7 games, he's had a 393 average with a 414 OPS and a 750 slugging percentage. OPB, excuse me. I should say. He looked like, I mean, to me, like I said before, and you look at his career stats, right? His best year was in 2022. Right? He finished actually, yeah, 2022, a 270 average with a slugging percentage of 504 with an 822 OPS. He's always had besides 2024, he's always had an OPS above 800. And if you look here, right, obviously from 2022 to 2023, his OPS declined. Obviously, the average wasn't there. He struck out a lot, but the amount of home runs, it was there. Now, obviously, he declined with power after 2023, but again, if he's giving you 30 plus every year, why not? He finished 38. He's at 32. He's probably going to get to 38 by the time September finishes. He's probably going to have 40 by the time September finishes. So to me, I don't see how all this offensive production is telling you, oh, because he doesn't fit my run prevention narrative. Even if you signed him on a 5-year deal, I don't see how run prevention for the next 2 or 3 years is going to hurt this team when my backups aren't even as great as what Pete Alonso provides for us. I don't understand that. And you can give me the advanced metrics and how it would work out or whatever. At the end of the day, there was no other backup. Unless you were telling me point blank that you were going after Wilson Contreras. There was no other backup that, to me, that was going to be much better than what Pete Alonso gave you. Forget about, you could take away the homegrown situation stat-wise, especially offensively. There was no other player that you were going to tell me was going to be as great as Pete Alonso was because of how familiar we were, but how familiar and comfortable he was playing here. He wanted to stay here. And you told us no. And what was your replacement? It wasn't Wilson Contreras, right? Who everybody wanted and everybody thought, hey, listen, if they're not going to bring Pete back, give me Wilson. A guy that can play the position very well. A guy that has power, not to Pete's caliber, but a guy that could give you a little bit of power and a guy that has attitude. A guy that has the energy to fit here in New York. They didn't get him. They didn't get him. So what was our replacement? Jorge fucking Polanco. 2 years, $40 million of Jorge fucking Polanco. And it wasn't to play second base. It was to play first base and DH. Now, the DH things make sense, right? Because, again, he has a little bit of power. He's a switch hitter, so it fits. Nah. It was to play first base. And where are we now? The guy is getting paid to not even be able to play his position. The funny thing, he's not even playing every day as a DH. So he can't even do that right now consistently. So what you do is now you talk about the great Jared Young, right? Everybody thought Murakami, right? A first baseman who's raking it for the Chicago White Sox right now. He's one of the main reasons why they're in first place and they're about to make the playoffs. We're talking about the White Sox, a team that everybody shits on every year because they can't get out of their own ways and they can never win. They're about to make the fucking playoffs, not only because the American League is so goddamn whack, but because Murakami is that guy. Yet David Stearns thought, nah, I'm good. I don't want him. I'm going to get Jared Young. Now, again, this isn't to flame Jared Young at all. Jared Young has had a solid year. But Jared Young is not cut to be an everyday first baseman. He's not. He's not. So then let's take that portion, right? Jared Young is not going to be an everyday first baseman. Let's start with a guy that could have been an everyday first baseman. They gave him the opportunity this year, but then he got hurt. And he was actually not, he was okay. He was okay. I'm not going to say he was great. I'm not going to say he was good. He was okay. You look at this guy right here. We're going to start up. It's a trickle down effect. We're going to start with the first guy that was here that could have had potential after 2024, right? I'm going to show you guys something that pissed me the fuck off because this kid thinks that he seems to still think that he is that guy. I think 2024 kind of got to him, but I regress. Let's listen to what he had to say.
How great did it feel for you to be back last night, being on the field and trying to work your way back?
It was awesome. Awesome to just get the little adrenaline back and getting the competitive nature of the game and just being in the dugout and talking with the guys and having laughs and stuff. That's what it's about, man. I played this game for a long time since I was 3 years old and just enjoying it and just playing like a little kid again.
Can you give me a favorite memory from the 2021 year? You know, you and Ronnie Mauricio being here as well. Was there any cool things that still stand out to you?
Yeah, it was me, Ronnie, and Brett. I remember it was just fun because like those guys, I grew up with them since I was 17, 18 years old, and playing with them in the same level, and now playing with each other in the big leagues is it's always cool. And just like you said, is just having your friends around and just enjoying it with them and playing the game you love with them is awesome.
Could you pinpoint one coach that is stuck out to you throughout this process?
There's just so many guys that had my back, pushed me in the right direction, led me the right way. I think right now, Jake Hager's right here. And I just told him, I was like, hey, like, I owe you a lot. And when I met him, he wasn't a coach, he was a player. And I met him in the alternate site. And I owe nothing but love to him because I remember him when I was there. I was 19 years old and the alternate site. And he's been there, done that, been in the minor leagues, and he has a lot of experience. And he was a guy that I was just kind of like, he took me under his wing in the alternate side, and I was out always asking him like, hey, what can you help me out with? Like, what is something that you think that could lead me to get into the big leagues and helping me grow from this experience in the alternate side? And he had a lot of words of wisdom, and I legit told him, it's funny that you asked that. I legit told him today, I'm like, man, I owe you a lot for real.
What does Mark Vientos want to see out of himself for the rest of 2026 to continue to play the game that you're having fun with right now? But what do you want to see from yourself for the rest of the year?
I think I've said it this whole interview is just like having fun, just enjoying the game and letting things come to me because I know how great of a player I am and I don't need to force anything. So I'm just wanting to get back, obviously, with the guys up there and just help as much as
Oh,
possible and
boy.
help as a teammate and help as a player and just contribute in any way.
So, okay. I get it, right? I get how fans, I get how people may interpret that as a negative thing because of how whack he's been since 2024. I'll say this in a positive way, right? The part where he says, "I know how great of a player I am," and that's the shit that bugged me, right? But I kind of had to look at it from a player perspective. And he said, "I don't need to force anything." Of course, I think if you don't have the utmost confidence in yourself and you don't think that you're great for yourself, why even play this game at all? Why even do what you want to do in life and try to win if you don't have the type of mentality? It goes for anything, whether it's sports, work. Like, if you don't feel like you're great in something that you want to do in life and win in life, why do it? I get that. And he says, "I don't want to force anything." You shouldn't. You should let everything come to you within the pressure. Like, if you're in baseball, you shouldn't try to force anything. Let the game come to you. Let it naturally come to you and you'll find your way. Right? But here's the thing. He says this all the time. How many times do I have to hear Mark Vientos say, I know I'm great, or I feel I'm great? My brother, at some point, that greatness that you see within yourself has to translate to the production on the field, and it hasn't. And I bring Mark Vientos into this conversation of first base because Mark Vientos could have found another way to still be here if he was performing to what we saw in 2024. Not even 2024. Give me close to what you had in 2025 in the month of May going into June before you got hurt. Do y'all remember that grand slam that he hit back in 2025, early 2025 in San Diego when he went the opposite way? Right? He was on a hot streak. And then what happened? He got hurt. He had the hamstring situation. He got hurt. So now, he comes in. He really hasn't lived up to that expectation because when he got back from that injury, he was trash. And whether you want to say it was the injury or not, he was trash. He comes in here, started off the month of April really good, had what, a 10-game hitting streak, an 11-game hitting streak, and then went right back to ice cold, and nobody talked about him on a positive light. Started messing up defensively at first base. I was giving him a ton of fucking credit. I was like, let's go, Swaggy V. Like, you're hitting the ball really well. Your defense at first base is shocking everybody. And then all of a sudden, he came back to reality. This inconsistency of greatness that you find, or that you see, Mark, needs to be studied, my brother, because you it's not there. It's not there. And I'm sorry. And listen, I was one of the biggest Mark Vientos guy. I was a proponent of him, and him being able to go out there and show that, yes, he finally broke out in 2024. I can't wait to see what this kid has done. It's sad to watch 2024 with Mark Vientos, because you know that he has better potential than what he's showing right now. But like I said, I bring him into this conversation when we're talking about the issue at first base with the Mets right now, because he could have cleared all that up. Maybe Jorge Polanco would not be a discussion within that position, and we wouldn't be so stressed about Jorge Polanco not being able to play that position if Mark Vientos would have at least lived up to half of that and said, yo, maybe my days of being a third baseman ain't there no more, because defensively I'm up and down. But yo, if my back can stay to at least what it was, similar to what it was in 2024 in the middle of 2025, and defensively I can hang at first base, we won't be having a discussion. We will not be having a discussion. And because of that, he's put himself in a deeper hole, because this is where the respect for Andy Green comes in, because Andy Green held them accountable. Not only did he hold them accountable, he told them straight up, like, listen, buddy, your role may not be the same. You gotta fight for that shit. And this is what Andy Green had to say when they asked him about it.
As Mark Vientos nears a return, where do you foresee his role being on this team when he gets healthy?
I don't know. I was very forthright with him when he started the rehab assignment that a lot of that will be dictated by how others perform and also by how he performs. Still think there's a very bright future out there for him. If he wants to go grab hold of it, that's on him. When he gets back in the box, take advantage of the at-bats you do get and prove you deserve more at-bats. And I think people get into different phases of their careers at different points in time. He has all the talent that he possessed in 24 when he was hitting close to 30 home runs and didn't even start the season with a big league club. It is all right there. It's on him for that to come out. We certainly want to see it come out. It's not going to be a perfectly laid path for him, though, when he does come back.
As Mark Vientos
like
nears
that. I absolutely like that. I like that attitude. I like the mentality. And again, I get to a lot of Met fans, you know, it could be cliche. A lot of managers have held their guys accountable and say that, but does it really mean anything? We didn't really have that with Mendoza a lot of the times. I'm just being honest. To hear somebody finally hold this kid accountable, understanding what he's brought to the table, it feels great, because it's like, yo, enough's enough, man. You're either here to cut it or you're not. And it's just as simple as that. This whole, I feel like I'm great or I know I'm great. I love the confidence, my brother, but at some point that confidence got to turn into production for the Mets, because otherwise you're not going to be here. You might not even be traded. That's the thing, is that we can't even trade this motherfucker because his value is so low. Nobody wants to partake in his inconsistency on the field or at the plate. That's a really big issue. And Brett Beatty's a fucking other one. I don't even want to talk about Brett Beatty, because they have laid the carpet for that motherfucker so much. Whether it's playing at third base or playing at second base or playing at first base, which he did a solid job, by the way, but they keep moving him because he's versatile. Yet every time he plays the outfield, he looks nothing but trash. He looks flat. He looks flat-footed. He doesn't know how to fucking move on the outfield. He's horrible. But yeah, because he's versatile, yeah, let's just keep running him out there. This is why we keep taking L's as an organization. So you're run by Mark Vientos, it doesn't work. And then it gets worse because now we're talking about another situation. We're talking about the great Ryan Clifford. Ladies and gentlemen, this kid has taken such a setback at 23 years old that they had to put him back in development because he can't even hit a baseball right now. And the funny thing is that there's an article that I'm about to read to you guys. I'm going to read you an article where they're basically describing and talking about how bad it's been for Ryan Clifford. That he might be done. But just look at his stats in 2026. A 175 average with a on-base percentage of 267 and an OPS of 611. I mean, sheesh. Only 16 home runs. Goddamn. God fucking damn. So now, let me read you guys this article. And if you see the title, Ryan Clifford's development appears to be in peril for the Mets. And then if you see in the bottom, it says, this is not what the Mets wanted to see. The New York Mets have a lot of intriguing prospects making noise through their farm system. Unfortunately, first baseman Ryan Clifford has not been one of them. It was just a month ago that saw Clifford in Philadelphia as the organization's rep at the Futures game and one of the top 5 prospects in the Mets farm system. Clifford has dropped all the way to number 15 in MLB.com's latest update of the Mets top 30. A steep decline for a player who was considered a central part of the return from the 2023 Justin Verlander trade with Houston. The Mets, many fans hope that Clifford could be part of the team's long-term plans at first base, but he has not had a good season with AAA Syracuse. On the year, Clifford is batting just 175 with 16 home runs, 51 RBIs, and a 611 OPS in 104 games, striking out a whopping 164 times in 368 at-bats. Jesus fucking Christ. Clifford appeared to hit rock bottom in a doubleheader against Jacksonville on August 16th when he went 0 for 9 with 8 strikeouts as part of a 1-for-41 funk. That run included a 26 strikeout led Syracuse to transfer Clifford to a nearly used development list. And then look at this right here. Clifford may be done as part of the Mets' future. The development list, in case you are not familiar, is a player designation created in 2021 designed to help teams aid a prospect development without the use of an injured list. A player on the development list does not count against the active roster limits and cannot appear in games, allowing the organization time to work with them on things like swing changes or mechanical tweaks in less provided situation. The Mets have already used a development list with former first-round pick and Colin Kovac, who spent a week on it earlier in August before returning to the active roster with High A Brooklyn. The goal with Clifford may be to work on either pitch recognition or a swing change to cut down his strikeouts, which has been a big problem for his progression towards the majors in 2026. Players must spend a minimum of 7 days on the development list before they can return to action. There is no maximum duration. However, the Mets could keep Clifford on the list longer if they feel he needs more refinement before returning to the game action with Syracuse. Boom. So we might not even get to see Ryan Clifford because of how bad things are with him. So not only does your possible guys that you can use at first base, right, who are naturally your third basemen, they can't even cut it. But now your top first baseman prospect in Ryan Clifford is not even playing fundamental baseball right now in an organization for a team. He's in the development list right now because of how bad he is. So you can't even call him up to try to save you. But there's a possible solution to all this. There's one possible solution. Y'all might think I'm crazy, but I'm about to show y'all right now. Hashtag not run preventions. Ew. Hashtag swing decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, there might be one scenario that the Mets can do next year, maybe, if they move this gentleman from third base to first base. I'm not saying it would be a good choice. I'm not saying it would happen. But based on the power that he provides, ladies and gentlemen, this kid can definitely make some noise coming in from AAA. He got called up in AAA in the beginning of August, and now he's raking for Syracuse. He was raking as soon as he got into AA for the Rumble Ponies, and now he's continuing to swing a very powerful bat in AAA. Ladies and gentlemen, my guy, hashtag swing decisions, Billy Amick. Billy Amick could definitely be a young option that the New York Mets can use at first base if they do not get themselves a natural first baseman, which is what I want. But again, since the conversation is that Jared Young is not going to be an everyday first baseman for you, maybe you can transition an everyday first baseman from Billy Amick. I mean, you look at his stats right now, a 226 average, which is not good, which means he's most likely power or nothing, right? But he's got an on-base percentage of 339 and an OPS of 864 with 33 home runs and 99 RBIs. The power is there and the potential is there for this kid. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it is there. It is there. Okay? They can do something special with Billy Amick. Now, again, he's a third baseman. So that's not necessarily saying that he can play the first base position. But if they want to take a crack at it and say, yo, we got nothing to lose, this kid is raking, and maybe we don't want to trade him, put him at first base and see what the kid can do. Hell, we're not going anywhere. So why not call him up this year? Call him up in September for September call-ups. Call him up. See what this kid could do. And maybe, just maybe, you could give him the Carson Bench red carpet. The carpet that they gave to Brett Beatty before Carson Bench. See, at least Carson's proving them right. Brett Beatty hasn't. Maybe they give this kid that carpet. And maybe they don't go out there and go get themselves a first baseman. Maybe they go out there and give Billy Amick that option. Who knows, man? But that could be your alternative. Because, like I mentioned, they tried it with Pete. They disrespected Pete. They didn't bring him back. They could have had something with Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty. Didn't work. Ryan Clifford can't even be used and can't even save us. Billy Amick might be that choice, man. And I'm going to get laughed at because my guys at Queens Baseball have been trolling me, especially Pope. He's been trolling me about that. Hashtag swing decisions. But listen, I saw what his stats were when we traded for him. And I said in a space after we traded for him, after it came out, I said, listen, 20 home runs and an OPS of 820 is nothing to snooze at if he's ranked number 30. He was literally ranked number 30 in the Minnesota Twins system. He wasn't number 1. He wasn't number 10. He wasn't 15. He was not 20. He was number 30. And this kid is giving you 20 home runs with an 820 OPS. Yeah, the average is not pretty. I understand that. But again, why not give that power an opportunity? Especially if he's raking the way he's raking right now. And he's only 23. The dude is 6'1". He's 220 pounds. He's 23. Give him that opportunity, man. You want to provide, you want to strive on your young prospects, David Stearns? Give that man an opportunity if you're not going to use your money and use your power to go get a natural first baseman, which we need. But if that's not what you're going to do, build it in, instill it into one of these kids. And since Ryan Clifford can't cut it, Billy Amick might be able to do the job, because your replacement for your homegrown prime first baseman who you didn't even bother to pay, and Ryan Clifford, right? And when I mean in Ryan Clifford, I mean that your replacement, which should have been Ryan Clifford, but instead you said, "Yo, let me bring in Jorge Polanco and let me play him in a position he's never played for, and let that be the replacement for Pete Alonso." Since none of that is working, right? At least see what Billy Amick can give you from a power standpoint. And if he develops some type of natural defense at first base, it would be even better. But it doesn't hurt to try when you're not going anywhere, and when we may not even know if we're gonna have baseball next year. But yeah, guys, listen. The first base issue for the New York Mets is a very, very, very serious situation. It is unfortunate that our president of baseball operations doesn't prioritize that position, which I believe he should, with many other positions like our pitching rotation, but I believe he needs to prioritize our first base position. And right now there's no suitable solution to replace that, because even the guy that's playing first base almost every day for you in Jared Young is not cut to be an everyday first baseman. He could be a backup, but he can't be your everyday first baseman. And the guy that you paid 2 years, $40 million to, who's never played a lick of first base in his career, can't even play the position because he's fucking hurt. And he may not be able to play the position next year. Go get a first baseman, or go give Billy Amick that opportunity. It's as simple as that. You want to try something? Call him up in September 1st and see what he does here. Maybe then when he gets the spring training invite, hopefully, he can build off that, and maybe we're talking about Billy Amick being up in the majors next year as a natural, not even a natural, just as our regular first baseman. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I am your guy, David. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure you guys give this video a like. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Top Bunk Sports YouTube channel. Follow me at Top Bunk Sports on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And for always, let's go Mets. I will check you guys on the next video. Peace out.